Okay, year 11. We're looking at chapter 6, and what we're actually doing is we've gone through the introduction of the 4 frames. Now we're going to start using or applying those frames to critically analyze our own body of work to create meaning, conceptual meaning, but more importantly, conceptual strength as well. So the creation of artwork is a journey. It has been a journey in the first term. You'll start with a rough idea and then you begin to explore how best to express it and give it a form. Along the way, you may find it useful to stand back from your work and look at it with fresh eyes. Try to evaluate your work from more than one viewpoint can be really helpful. So this is where we apply the 4 frames: the subjective, cultural, structural, and postmodern. So first of all, the subjective frame. To use the subjective frame to examine your artwork in progress, you can begin by concentrating on feelings. Okay, some of us aren't very good at this, some of us are really good at this, without in tuned emotionally with ourselves. Some of us are still quite reserved. You need to ask yourself whether you like your artwork. Try not to get too intellectual about it. You can do that through other frames. The subjective frame is about experience, your experience and others' experience of your artwork. So the physical and emotional reactions. Consider the student painting above. Okay, so this is Chris Carey. Does this artwork suggest to you a physical sensation? So when you look at this portrait of courage, it was made in 2007. The materials are oil on canvas. Okay, what is the emotion or the physical reaction that you get when you're viewing this work? Maybe you feel a tingling in the spine when you view this artwork, or perhaps you feel numb or warm. How do you react to this painting emotionally? Does this artwork make you feel happy, sad, or indifferent? Indifferent means I feel nothing. Indifferent is a popular emotion in the early stages of art because you're still building the confidence as an art student to actually share or validate those emotions. The canvas is large and the paint is applied thickly with a knife. The subject looks directly at you and his face is bleeding. So that dark red crimson is the symbolism of blood. The student is hoping to the audience looking at his work will respond in an emotional way by creating an image of a human face that may be in pain and is looking directly at the viewer. The artist hopes that the audience will emphasize with the subject. Can you imagine yourself in the same situation? Okay, so when you look at that image, okay, that portrait, the portrait of courage, what are you thinking? If someone was to come to you and present themselves in front of you with blood all over their face, what is the reaction, that physical and emotion reaction that you would feel? Okay. Again, when we're viewing our art in this format, in this 2D format, we need to look and associate how we would react in front of the painting. It's quite large, as it said. It's 102 by 152 centimeters, so that's quite large. Okay, so it's over a meter. All right, how would you react standing in front of that? And then apply that to real life. How would you react if someone was standing in front of you with a bloody face? So personality, every good painter paints what he is. Every person is unique. We need to celebrate that. We're individuals with personal beliefs and values. No two artists are exactly alike. That's something to celebrate. Consider what it is that makes you different, even in the smallest, slightest way, from the people around you. Is there something special about you that you can bring to your art practice? In other words, how can you show your personality and how is that expressed? Look at the work of the fellow art students. Try to see whether you can make a connection between their artwork and their personalities. I can see, marking your previous assessment, your personalities coming through. When you answer and you complete the student task, you are giving me hints on ideas that we can develop in further body of work, and that turns into HSC major. Okay, so it's really important to take the time to do these student tasks, even though that they may feel quite basic. They're there to support you and build a foundation for a really strong Year 12 major. So if you can, it is through their technique. Choose, is it their choice of material or is it the choice of subject? Can you think of an artwork that clearly expresses the artist's personality? Emotions as inspiration. Are there strong emotions that you have experienced in the past that you can use when creating your artworks? For example, if you're trying to create a joyful image, think back to an experience where you felt joyful. Like an actor who draws on their emotional past, an artist can tell you or recall remembered feelings and find ways to express them. This is really it's really relevant today, as not just an art teacher, but viewing the world at the moment as a visual artist. I am creating work that is emotionally important as a narrative, as an activist, as politics that are happening in my life. There is artwork, and I will show you some examples of that in your weekly page. So emotions can be really, really good to draw on. If something is joyful, if on the other side something is not so joyful, if something is making you mad, making you sad, draw on that for inspiration to create work. So the subconscious mind reproduced here is a series of images from a student film. Okay, the series shows the transition from one image to another. The student created hundreds of drawings in their notebooks. The images were drawn intuitively. He let the images flow from his subconscious mind while his thoughts were elsewhere, watching television, sitting at the back of the class. So you have those scribbles and you're just scribbling and it's like, yeah, I don't know. These doodles, okay, are seemingly random pictures, have a relationship to each other, yet their meaning is unclear, much like a strange dream. When they were imported into a filmmaking program and brought together as a movie, they created a hypnotic and highly personal piece of work. So you can create this work by Nicholas Beebe. He is evidence that you can create art is born from rough ideas, and it is developed through the art process. The art process is tedious, okay? It's long, it's upsetting. Parts of it you're not going to like, but every artist, even established artists, go through an art process. So imagination, the artist is a receptacle for the emotions that come from all over the place, from the sky, from the earth, from a scrap of paper, from a passing shape, from a spider's web. That's a Picasso quote. Okay, so he's saying an artist has all these feelings from these outside sources, whether it is the sky, whether it's Mother Earth, whether it's a scrap of paper, whether it's a passing shape, if it's a spider web. There is so much inspiration around you. It would be very difficult to understand any art student in term 2 sitting there saying, I don't know what to do. You've had 10 weeks of getting to know each other, getting to know your art teacher, getting to know yourself within an art studio or an art classroom. There is so much inspiration around you, okay? One of the most useful questions a creative person can ask themselves is, what if? What if I used a different medium? What if I do the opposite of what I had originally planned? What if my sculpture of a cat had wings and 3 heads? What if? So in your art process, you are never done. You will never present an artwork and say to your art teacher, I am done. There is never a finishing moment in prelim. There is right towards the end in your major where you think you might be done. Majority of art students complete their major in a way that they say, what if I added this? What if I had done this? What if? So it's never done. The process is never done. Okay. This introduces the idea that you need to be proactive in your art practice. Have you done enough? Have you done your independent studying? You should be studying for all your subjects in prelim at least half an hour per subject a day. Okay, if you are serious about your grades, if you're serious about your subject, whether it's visual arts, whether it's TAS, whether it's English, whether it's ancient history, Aboriginal studies, society and culture, maths, whatever subject, you as a senior student should be doing independent learning. Now, independent learning is the nice way of saying study. You should be studying after the allocated hours of school time. It is a prerequisition for seniors. Okay, if you're not doing that, then that will show in your marks. There's some people that don't need to study. I'm very jealous of those people. These people do exist. Okay, so this particular session, we are looking at 5 questions. The student task number is 6.1, and you need to think about your own body of work and critically view it from the subjective frame. So you need to ask yourself the following questions. How are your feelings and emotions expressed in your body of work? How imaginative have you been in developing your concepts and ideas? And how do you express your beliefs and values? How will an audience view and understand your work? Will an audience be able to emphasize with the feelings you express? You need to answer those. They are not a yes or no answer. Do not answer in a superficial way. This is not a superficial course, okay? You are practicing and building the muscles in your hands because you are writing, because you will be sitting in an exam. I'm not sure how we're going to do that if the current situation is still in isolation, but you are working towards an exam. Our exam is a written exam. It is 3 questions and it's 1 essay. It's around 2 hours. That's 2 hours of writing. So this particular structure that we do in prelim is actually coaching you and your muscles on writing. There is a lot of writing in visual arts senior. We always focus on our critical and historical studies. We always have this reflection. We always have a writing task. There's no ways around that. That is the course. Okay, so this session you are to answer these 5 questions in your visual arts diary. You can type them up, being that we're in an online environment, and I will check in with you next session.